Okay, so today being the first class, we will discuss very basics. We will understand how do we get JMeter configured and installed on our machine. Okay, so it's a free source. It's a free tool. It's open source, meaning to say that you can even modify the tool. The source code for the tool is also available online. Okay. It is used for performance testing. It used to be used for functional testing also, but it has picked up the performance testing area quite a bit now. However, many companies use JMeter for functional testing still. So let's start how to install this JMeter tool. You just have to type in JMeter. It is the first link, that is jmeter.apache.org, is a link where you can download the tool. You see the download releases link on the left. Okay. Over here, the latest version is 2.8, which requires Java version 1.5. This is a Java-based application, so it is all coded in Java. If you know Java, you can enhance your tool. You can write plugins to your tool. Okay. So there are two formats that you see: binaries and source. Now, as I said, this is an open source tool, which means that the source file, the code, is available for you to modify or for you to look at. So this section here, source, is talking about that source code. We are interested in binaries. If you only want to run the program, run the tool and do scripting on the tool, you are okay with binaries. You are okay to have just the binaries. So there are two formats, .tgz and .zip. Now .tgz is for Linux and this is for Windows. .zip is for Windows. Since, as I said, it works on Java, it is a Java-based application and Java is platform independent. So that is why we have two formats here, because JMeter can run on Linux as well as on Windows. Now since you have Windows, since I have Windows here, I will download this particular zip file, JMeter 2.8, this is the version. This zip file I will download. Okay. After the download, you will see the zip as this. You unzip this file and you will get this folder, inside which you have bin, docs, extras, lib, printable docs, etc. Now in bin folder, you have this jmeter.bat file. There are many different files here. You look out for your batch file. This jmeter.bat file is what, when you double click, JMeter launches. Okay. So you will see this black window, the command.exe window, for some time, after which JMeter interface is launched. Okay. This interface is made in Java. Okay, Java Swing. That is why it takes a little bit of time to start up. So this is the first look at JMeter. The prerequisites to install JMeter is that you must have Java. As it says, it requires Java 1.5 or later. So you make sure that you have Java. For installing Java, it's very simple again. Just go on Google and type in Java download. Java is also free source. It's an open source. So download free Java software, or you can go to java.com, free Java download. So it will do the rest of the things on its own. You don't need to do anything. When you say this, it will automatically, after you agree and start free download, automatically downloads, and you can start the installation process. And how do you know whether your Java has been already installed or not? You can go to your program files. In C folder you have your program files. In program files, if you see any Java folder or JRE folder, by this you can check whether your Java is already there or not, or you need to install it right from the beginning. If you need to install it right from the beginning, you can do it from this link. Okay. So coming to this JMeter interface now. Well, now you should have a scenario basically, right, to test. If you have done manual testing before, you would know that in a test case you have some steps, okay, and at the end of testing you want to make sure all the steps have passed to pass this test case, right? All the steps should pass. In performance testing, I will just give a little bit of background on performance testing now. In performance testing, you start with the requirement phase. Like in manual testing, you have functional requirement phase. In performance testing, you have performance requirement gathering phase, where you, by talking to the client or by talking to the business unit, you gather up the requirement. What do we mean by performance requirement? Performance requirement should dictate, like, why do we want to do performance? What is the agenda of this performance testing? Are we going to check whether the website is able to respond within the stipulated time as recommended by the client or as expected by the end users, so that the business is not affected? This could be one. The second could be, what is the max number of users your application can support? The third could be, if your application is already facing any issues, this performance testing can help you find the bottlenecks, okay? Memory bottlenecks, CPU bottlenecks. The bottlenecks, something that are bringing the performance down of your system, of your application. So the agenda could be any for your performance testing. That you will find out by talking to the client, by questioning him, by preparing the questions. You can find out more information about the application which is under test. So this is not just the application. In performance testing, it is basically the server which is under test. Okay, we are testing the server's capability, whether the server is able to scale up if the number of users go up, or the server is capable enough in terms of resources, in terms of response time. Is it giving good enough response time that the end users, the customers, or the users which are accessing the application are able to get the page on time? Okay, so these are the kind of requirements that you gather first in performance testing life cycle. Then comes your scenario building. Okay, once you have taken down all the requirements, the infrastructure, the environmental needs, and etc., then you come up with your, assuming that you already understand the application, then you come up with a scenario. Now what I mean by scenario is the workflow that you want to test against these requirements, against response time, scalability, bottlenecks, etc. Now scenario can be, for example, if you take an example of e-commerce website, this could be a buy flow. You select your product, you add it into the cart, and you purchase that item by giving payment details, right? So this is one flow. Other flow could be, you want to sell your item, you upload your item on the selling page, on the selling portal. This is one flow. Okay, so depending on what your application is catering to, you can have different flows, and these flow, each of these business process, also I can call in terms of performance testing, each of these flow will be called as business process. Many business processes can make one scenario. So you will create your scenarios. Okay, you will design your scenarios. This comes in designing phase. Well, along with this, you also have planning phase. Like you have the requirement phase where you capture the requirement. Then you have planning phase in which you come up with a test plan. Now, test plan is nothing but a document where you write down what is the agenda of your test, what all scenarios you're going to cover, Okay, so inside the test plan also you're covering up some part of your application scenario. Well, it depends on organization to organization whether they want what information they want to keep in the test plan. So it is not very well defined that in test plan you should have scenarios or you should not have scenarios. You can have your resource requirement, your timelines, like by when you should be able to complete your project, who all will be involved, what all different kinds of training you require to give to your resources, what tools you will be using. So all of this generic information will go in your test plan. Once the test plan is ready, you come up with your scenarios, and then after that it's your scripting phase where you have to convert these scenarios into script, and this is where we start working with JMeter. So in the performance test life cycle, when you have done with the scenarios and you start with scripting, the tool comes into play, because for performance testing you must have a tool. Why? Can you do performance testing manually? Well, the answer is no, you cannot. The reasons: for performance testing, you have to have a number of users. Writing the script is okay, but after writing the script, you have to load the script, meaning to say you have to create a number of users which will do the same activity over a period of time again and again. Okay, so is this possible to do it in a realistic environment? It was possible if you had 100 machines, you had 100 human users manning those machines, and you had one controller who would say hit, and then everybody would precisely hit on some button, okay, on some activity, do some activity precisely according to what controller is telling. But human beings, you can expect that time precision cannot be achieved. Okay, so it adds cost factors. You have to have so many machines, you have to have so many people manning those machines, you have to have that kind of alertness to meet the time precision, but still you cannot. Okay, so all these factors cannot be achieved manually, all these factors cannot be achieved in real time, and that's the reason you have a software dependence here in terms of in the field of performance testing. So what happens, the entire scenario that I just explained you is done with the help of a software, which is nothing but a tool. The tools like LoadRunner, JMeter, OpenSTA, WebLoad, these are various performance testing tools which do the same thing. Instead of having different machines physically, what they have is 2 or 3 machines, and they create, instead of having human users manning those machines, you have virtual users, users which are not existing in reality, which are there created by the software, but which will do the same activity as any human user, as any end user to the application will do. So the purpose is achieved in this manner, right? You have a machine who you have a software which will create virtual users, and virtual users will do the same activity as real users will do. And where is this thing written? Where is this plan written? What will the virtual users do? That is, with the help of script, you can decide what these users are supposed to do. So this is how we can do performance testing with the help of tool, and this performance testing automatically lends itself to automation. You cannot do it manually. Not only just this step, not only just the step of creating the users and we are done. So after the users are doing business process, you have to collect the results also. So that part also is not very easy if you are doing it manually. If you do performance testing manually, that result collection part is also a challenge. Other than this time precision, other than infrastructure, other than so many people handling this machine, other than that, collection of results and changing those results into a format which is visible to, which is good enough to view, like in graphs, reports, charts, tables, etc. That also is a big challenge. So the entire life cycle is such that you have to depend on a tool. If not for entire step, if not for say your graphs and everything, maybe for the previous steps like your users creation, firing of users to do some business process, collecting of results, till this part we require a software. Okay, once you have a raw data, of course you have different utility programs which can turn down this data into understandable charts or graphs, etc. That is fine. That we can do with the help of some other tool. But from the start of users till firing of users and collecting of results, we require a tool if we want to do performance testing of any web application. And nowadays, performance testing is pretty hot. It is picking up. The reason being, every business is coming on. Every business wants to be visible on internet. So meaning to say, all businesses, small or big, they want to be represented by a website. And website meaning they want to attract traffic to build up their business. And as the traffic goes on, as the number of people and users on the website go on, you will be facing problems, right? Problems in terms of whether the application is giving good user experience, whether response times are good, are there any bottlenecks or slowdown that users are facing because of which the business can be affected. So for these reasons, the performance testing for any website is becoming quite important these days. So now let's start with the scripting part. Other theory portion like performance testing stages and what do we do, what do we have in test plan. I have a pre-recorded session. I'm not going to cover theory in this training session. So as part of this training, you will get the video sessions also. You can go through the theory session from there. Okay, I'll cover up the scripting part and the hands-on part basically in this training. Okay, so now I have taken the term test plan already, which is appearing in performance testing life cycle. Now the test plan that you see here in JMeter window, you see two things here, test plan and workbench on your left side, on this left pane. Now this test plan is different from the test plan that I have just mentioned. The test plan in performance testing that appears in planning phase is a document. Okay. However, over here, test plan and workbench are two nodes which appear on the left side pane, and your test plan here refers to the script, refers to the scenario that you want to convert into script that users can use and play over again and again, right? So as soon as you launch your JMeter interface, this is JMeter interface, you see the two things, test plan and workbench. As I said, in test plan we will have the script. We will see how we can generate script. In the test plan you will have those scripts, and the workbench is like a workspace. It is a temporary folder, you can understand, temporary place where you can store your script. You can work out like what steps are useful, and then you can move those steps to your test plan. Okay. Now the very first thing, the very basic thing is, how do we capture the user activities using JMeter? Well, coming to this point, you will see that this test plan, when you right click on, you will have various test elements, test group, threads, test fragment, config element, timer, preprocessor, post processors, assertions, listener. These are all test elements using which you will be creating your script or enhancing your script. On workbench also you have some test elements available, so using which you will be able to create a script, right? Now there are many test elements, as you can say. If I create a thread group under which you will have many samplers and all, Well, we'll understand them one by one. Just for the starting purpose, like how do we create a script, whatever test elements are required, whichever are must, I'm going to cover them first in this session. Okay, so I'll delete this. So when you right click on this test plan, the first test element is threads. Now threads are nothing but users. Here, as you can see, threads users. So the first test element that you must have in your test plan is thread group. Okay, I'll create this. On the right hand side, you will see the thread group control panel. You have name field, comment field. The name field is the name of this test element, thread group. You can change this thread group as users 10. Okay, why users 10 I have named, I will just let you know. So this thread group is renamed. Over here you can see use thread. Down there you have thread properties, number of threads. Now threads in JMeter terminology refers to users, the number of users. Then you have ramp up period. The unit for this is seconds. Ramp up period is the time in which all the users should be up and running in the system. What I mean by this is, suppose you are running your test for 10 users. Suppose the maximum number of users accessing the system, accessing the website or the application is just 10. So ramp up period, if I say 10, it means all the 10 users will be pushed into the system in 10 seconds. Okay, so you will divide these users by this time, and in 1 second those many users will be pushed in. If I say the ramp up period is 5 seconds and your users are 10 in number, okay, so every second two users will be entered into the system. If you put it 0, if the ramp up is 0, all users will be pushed into the system at one time. Now since 10 is a very small number, the server or the servers will be able to handle this much load immediately. If you push all users at once, 10 users at once hitting the system, hitting the server, it will be handled well. But if you have 100 users or say 200 or 300 users, the server may not be able to cater to so many users at one time, and that is why you will require your ramp up period. Okay, and as it is, if you see, basic idea is you have to simulate your real-time behavior. In real time, you will not see that on any website 100 users will be hitting at one point in time. Okay, so this is another reason. Two reasons: you don't want to overwhelm your server. Second reason, realistic. If you look at the real-time behavior, in no website will show you that all 100 users are accessing. If max is 100 users, all maximum users, all the number of users will not be accessing the server at one point in time. Okay, there will be some delay, some pattern of the users entering into the system. So that pattern we can establish with ramp up period. Now the third field, loop count, there is a checkbox here, forever. If you do that, the script, the activities, the steps that you incorporate in this thread will be looped over again and again indefinitely. Okay, unless you stop the test yourself. So this is one option, forever, or you have other option of loop count. Say you want to run your script for 5 times only. So one user will run the script 5 times, meaning to say, suppose I have some business process here in user 10, and this thread group is doing, say, selling flow. So this 10 users will do the selling flow 5 times. Okay, so meaning to say 10 into 5, 50 times the selling flow will run, which means such 50 selling requests will be executed on the server. Now this is when this selling flow is equivalent to 1 request. That is when it will become 50 requests. If this flow has say 10 requests, well, one flow can have any number of requests. So that many times the request will be multiplied. See, the terminology differs. The terminology in LoadRunner for users is users, that is virtual users. Over here, you call them thread. Okay. All right. So this is about thread group. I will reset it back to as it was. 1 second, 1 iteration. Everything is set to 1. So this is about your thread group. Now, thread group is just like it just controls the number of users, ramp up, and number of iterations. But you have to have some steps inside this thread group that would be iterated over, okay, for which the users will be created. Now, the request that you send to the server, which is like a test step. If you don't have test step, what will you do? So that request that you send to the server is nothing but sampler in this case. So the terminology used is sampler. And there are various kinds of samplers you can see. Access, log, bean shell, BSF, FTP, HTTP, and so on. Depending on what kind of application you have, if you are doing your performance testing for an FTP server, it will become an FTP request. Generally, web applications run on HTTP HTML protocol. You can also take them as protocols. Okay, if you know LoadRunner already, then you will be able to see that the protocols can be equated with samplers here. You have HTTP request, so I'll work with this HTTP request now. And okay, on the right hand side, you will see the HTTP request control panel. You have your name of the request and comment. You have the web server you want to get access to, or you want to send this request to, the port number, implementation of the request. There are various implementation type: HTTP client 4, 3.4, 1, or Java. So this is about HTTP request. How do you want to implement your HTTP request? So it doesn't really matter much, from testing perspective. You can use the latest one and can work. Well, so I'll now show you how we can send a request, a very small request, to any server in picture. For example, just for the small example, I'm taking Google application, the Google website, okay, google.com. So I will say the test is opening Google page. So basically I'm checking out how much time it takes to open Google page, or you can also have clicking on some link or something. Okay, so what is the IP address or server name? Over here it is just google.com. Don't put HTTP ://. Just put you can start with www also. Google.com. Now, port number you can leave blank. If your application is listening on a certain port, only then you can configure the port number here. Implementation you can select with the latest one, HTTP client 4. Protocol by default it is HTTP. Okay. If you have HTTPS, then you can mention HTTPS yourself. So for now, I'll remove it. Method, leave it as it is, and the path. If you have any path, for example, I will just tell you what we mean by path. You have sometimes like this: abc.com/ Okay, so you have abc.com/ and then you may have some directory, right? Some folder structure inside, and you may have index or something. So this is domain, this is the web server, and this is your path. Okay, everything that follows from the first slash onwards becomes your path. So over here I have got nothing, right? I just want to access google.com, so path should just be left as single slash, nothing follows. Okay, so in the small request that I'm just checking to go to the Google home page, the Google page, I will leave as it is. This much information is enough. Okay. Now how do you run the test? The screen buttons you see here, start, or you can go into this run menu and say start. It says you should save your test plan before running it. Well, this is the requirement. I will save this test. I'll create a new folder. I'll call it 12th Jan batch, inside which I'm going to save day 1 script. Okay. So here I go and save this script. This is saved, and now I'm going to run the test using this green play button here. You can run your test. The test is executed. Just note at this part of your screen, when your test runs, you will see this gray square turning green. I'll run it again, just watch over there. So it is very quick. Actually, there's only one step to run, so that's the reason it is very quick. Well, I have run the test twice, but how do I see whether the test has run successfully or not? Okay, so you have to have one more element added into this thread group, one more test element added into this thread group to see if your test has run properly or not. Over here, this sampler HTTP request is just going to send this request to the server. But what is the response sent back from the server? That we can capture with the help of listeners. Now, listener, as the name says, it is going to listen over to the response. Okay. So there's one listener. There are many listeners, as you can see here. There's a huge list of listeners: aggregate, graph, report, bean shell listener, etc., etc. And down there you have simple data writer, spline visualizer, summary report. I will start with view results tree. It's a very good listener. It can give you the results in a tree format. Okay, and will show you the response in HTML view, text view, etc. So I'll start with this listener here, view results tree. So there is this element view results tree added here, and now when I run the test, you will be able to see the result for this execution. So I see this node here. This will show you in this pane. You will see the tree structure. So this shows you the request name, the same request name, opening Google page. On the right side, you have sampler result, wherein you can check your thread name, you can check the sample start time, load time, latency. Latency is the time to receive the first byte from the server. Okay, the very first byte from the server received as a result of your request is latency. So all of these times are in milliseconds. Okay, the size and byte, headers, error count, response code, and response message. This is what we are interested in now. For now, the response code 200, which is equated here with this message OK, shows that this request was successful. Now you also have request tab and response data tab, which will show you what request got passed. So you pass this URL, and in response data you are getting this kind of response from the server. This is in text format. Okay, you can change the format of this request from here. You can change it to HTML format. So this is how the page looks like. Okay, this is a close approximation of the page. It is not the exact look of the page. This is close approximation of the page. If you just open the tree here or expand this tree, you will see the two sub URLs, which you can ignore. It doesn't matter. Okay, you can stick to this one. So This is how you have a small, you have created a small request to access your Google page, and you have viewed the result whether the request was successfully attended to, so whether the response was received for this request or not. Okay. Now you can create as many requests as you want. You can check out different websites. You can give the path as well. But is it realistic to create a test plan, to create a test script for entire flow of your website like this manually? No, because this was a very simple request. You had get method and you had nothing to pass as part of your request, part of your URL. Many times you will see the requests are complicated. They are non-English, right? You will not be able to understand some bit of it because there's some junk characters. Maybe session ID is so huge and you don't know how to get that. Well, for that we have a different way. We have recording method where we can record the steps as the user is performing steps on the website. You can instruct JMeter to record those steps in its own language like this. So it will create samplers, it will populate the server name, the path, and any more parameters which must go as part of request. It will automatically do that. Okay, so that is with the help of recording. With the help of recording, we can capture all user activities on a website. We'll see that tomorrow because that will take some time, which it will not get over in another 10 minutes. So I'll leave this here. I'll leave this for tomorrow. And so far, I guess you have got a good picture of how JMeter works. What is the testing flow? What is the performance life cycle